You open your phone, go to a chat page, look back all these wonderful memories, and it's gone. I don't know if you've been here before. There is a specific moment right after that where your brain just goes silent. You feel really heavy all over your body. You just feel like something went wrong, and you don't know why. All the sadness, anxiety, shame, regret, and resentment just pop up running all over your body. Oh, they just say something wrong or do something wrong that make her unhappy. So she decides to leave me. But what's actually being triggered in you goes a lot more deeper than that. Once you see the truth behind it, it completely shifts the way you navigate these feelings. So most of the people would think if I understand why they left, I can let go and move on. If I keep distracting myself and stay busy, if I quick if I quickly find someone new, I'll get over it. Your friends will tell you to give it some time. And you jump on Tinder. It makes total sense that you would think this way because it sounds logical. But is it the truth? To be fair, they do help you to quickly ease your negative feelings. I mean, your deep sense of sadness. But if these are the truth, the way out of pain, then people wouldn't keep repeating the same curse cycles in every new relationship. Everybody should be scrolling Tinder after breaking up to find themselves new partners or going out for parties, right? We never had to really find a real solution for the pain. I mean, the problem underneath. That also explains why people are addicted to certain behaviors like excessive alcohol consumption, binge eating, substance abuse, pornography addiction, etc., etc. I'm not saying they are totally useless. They actually help you to ease your suffering temporarily, but you are avoiding something and you are going to pay back exponentially in the future. There is definitely something far more important missing out, and you don't realize it. Once you start looking at it from these angles that I'm about to tell you, a lot of things will change. And you gain clarity you never had before. Most people assume that all their pain comes from the outside. Like, I'm sad because this and that happened to me. I didn't ask for it. So we naturally look for relief from the outside. But is looking outward actually the answer? If you actually listen to what I just said, I think you know the answer is no. So what do we actually do instead? I guess you already have the answer, right? It's looking inward, right? How exactly though? Okay, one is to figure out why. What I mean by why is the underlying reasons that you formed when you were a little baby. The other one is to learn how to regulate your feelings, your emotions with some scientific method, but we are not going to cover this in this video. There will be another specific episode for it. Subscribe and stay tuned for it. Before I get into the deeper reasons, I want to say one thing first. We first have to realize that ending relationships, losing people, or people walking out of your life, none of these things were within our control. I mean, it almost happened to everyone, right? Like, c'est la vie. The more you hold on to things that are outside of control, the more you suffer. The sooner you realize that, the closer you get to freedom. I want to walk you through the different levels at which a breakup actually hits a person. The first one is the most obvious one. You've clearly You've clearly lost someone who was part of your life. You lost someone you text, you call, and do things together. Along with that, you also lose the lifestyle, the company, which you've gotten used to. I have to say this kind of pain makes sense for most people. And it's the most surface level one. For most people, the pain doesn't stop here. And then there's the second layer. It's harder to explain. I'm not sure you've ever felt this way before. When you break up with someone, you feel like you lose the meaning of your life. No matter what you do or what you have, it just never satisfies you anymore. You just feel drowned in that emptiness. You don't really feel like yourself anymore. In psychology, we call this a disruption in your sense of self. In your relationship, the other partner is often doing a lot more than just keeping you company. They are actually doing things for you that you may not even realize. When you are feeling low, they comfort you. When you feel unsettled, they help ground you. When you doubt yourself, they give you reassurance and support. As if it's a safe space where partners offer co-regulations, where your partner offer co-regulation for your own emotions. Basically, some people don't just gain a partner when they fall in love. They gain an emotional crutch. The things the other person does for you on a psychological level, this is called the self-object function. In a relationship, the other person is an external figure, but they're actually carrying psychological weight that ideally we should be able to care for ourselves. So when the breakup happens, it's like losing the crutch. I mean, collapse. And then there's an even deeper layer, one most people don't even notice. The coming and going of relationship is actually activating and in some cases, even making worse the ones that were formed really early in your life. A significant number of people grow up in environments where they weren't treated well. Maybe they grew up in a somewhere toxic family where their emotion needs are never satisfied. Or in the worst case, they are orphans. Maybe they form a deep core belief that they are unlovable, that they will be abandoned anyway. And they carry those beliefs into their adulthood. More importantly, they're quietly being reinforced by some little experiences. Their relationships, I'm talking about both romantic or other interpersonal ones, become like a script that was written in advance, playing out the same way again and again. So why is it that some people, even though they are sad after a breakup, are able to slowly move through it while they seem completely unable to let go? Well, this has a lot to do with what we just talked about, which was your sense of self. People with a strong sense of self will still be devastated by the breakup. They will fall apart. They'll cry. But somewhere deep inside, something remains steady. They still know who they are, what they value, what kind of person they are. Their relationship mattered deeply. But it wasn't the thing holding their entire sense of worth together. But there is also another type of people, which is far more common than you imagine. A relationship isn't just about having someone there for companionship. It's about proving their sense of worth. It proves they are lovable. It proves they are important. So when it's over, they're not just grieving a person, they're grieving a proof to be loved and their entire sense of worth. Okay, another important reason, some people grow up learning how to handle separation, something almost everyone has to face at some point in their life. Whether it's losing someone close or just mom popping out for a second, maybe go to grocery store. But some people never actually learn how to deal with it. What does that mean? People who were raised in healthy, supportive families, when they were sad or lost something or had to separate from their parents as a child, there was someone there with them, usually daddy or mommy. There is someone to comfort them, explain things clearly and patiently to make sure they understand. Even though we're separating from each other right now, you're still safe. I'll come back with you within an hour or a day or whatever, as long as it's her specific and predictable timing, because that's how infant or baby's sense of security is formed. Their parents would say things like, I'm going out for a while now. I know you're sad, and that's okay. You can cry. I'm here with you. But at some point, I do still have to leave. That's how I do. But my leaving doesn't mean I am never coming back. I'll be back at a specific timing. No lies, I keep my word. Their family gave them a sense of safety and predictability. They didn't panic or didn't panic that much from early on. They develop a stable, secure sense of self, largely because of their parents. And because of that, even when a breakup hurts, they don't get pulled all the way back into that deep primal fear because at a really deep level of their personality, the foundation of security is already there. When we are young children, we are completely dependent on a parent to survive. We literally cannot make it without them. So we are wired to be anxious and afraid of separation. Psychology calls this separation anxiety, and everybody has it to some degree. But some people learn how to handle that anxiety and some don't. That's why a simple goodbye can feel like a total abandonment, as if they're a really vulnerable infant. And a large part of the reason is that they never learn how to deal with it. It almost feels like a biological fear of death for this group of people. But the reality is, as an adult, you're always capable of surviving on your own in this world. As long as your body functions normally, you have four limbs, as long as you're not disabled or intellectually disabled or anything like that, that kind of sadness people sink into after a breakup is really at its core anxiety about death. And that anxiety usually comes from the way separation from parents in childhood was never properly handled or soothed. While there are some blessed people who were early in their life simply weren't as deeply hurt by separation. For example, when they had to separate from their parents as children, their parent knew how to comfort them, how to explain things, how to make them feel even though we are apart from each other right now. You're still safe. You haven't been abandoned. Those people, even when the breakup hurts, don't easily get pulled back into that deep fear. So as adults, even when they go through a breakup or anything like that, even though it hurts, but they will manage to work through it. They know it's okay to grieve, to feel sad, to slowly release the relationship, but some people were never taught how to handle loss or separation when they hurt. All they could do was hold it in. When they got left, all they could do was panic. Some would even go further to suppress their own sadness, pretending to be strong, pretending not to care, telling themselves or being told not to cry. So it's not that they don't want to move on, they genuinely don't know how. Okay, do you remember what I said? Their relationship are like a script written in advance? Let's dive into that. What do I mean by script? You can think of it like this. Deep down inside, they have this script running in their head, and subconsciously, they keep following that exact same script every time they get into a close relationship. The storyline is basically always the same with different people in different situations at different stages of their life. But in the end, the outcome of their relationships always ends up looking really similar. And if you look closely, you can actually spot some clear patterns. This kind of script shows up a lot in people who have an anxious attachment style. At the deepest level, they are convinced that who they really are is simply unlovable. That is their core belief. And most of the time, this belief is completely subconscious. They don't even realize it's there. But we can still see it clearly in the way they behave. These people usually feel these people will usually feel they have to be perfect. I mean, like unrealistically perfect. They put extremely high standards on themselves and they're super sensitive to what other people think of them because deep inside they believe I have to be good enough, amazing enough, impressive enough to be liked. And here's the important part. Most of these beliefs weren't something they choose. They were deeply ingrained since childhood from hundreds and hundreds of little life experiences. Usually, they grew up in an environment where they were criticized, rejected, and ignored a lot. So they learned early on, I have to be good enough, obedient enough, useful enough to be loved. This kind of belief is actually extremely common in Asian families. In many places in China, kids are really loved unconditionally. From childhood, they're constantly compared to other kids. If you grew up in a Chinese family, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That's why they feel this kind of constant need to prove themselves because they were never loved just for being themselves. Deep down, they believe love has to be earned. In psychology, we call it abandonment schema. A schema is basically the lens through which we interpret the world. For now, let's just call it the repeating script, the abandonment script, or the I'm not lovable script, or whatever. You know what I mean. And like I said earlier, this script runs on our autopilot. It's subconscious. So most people don't even notice playing in the background. The main component for the script are the main component for the script are abandonment schema plus impulsive repetition. Sounds like some big words, right? But it's really simple, trust me. It's basically you repeat the same pattern in different relationships with different people over and over again. Period. I'm not sure if you've noticed this pattern where you look back on your relationships different person, different situation, but somehow the same wood gets activated every time we enter a relationship. The same feeling of being left, I'm not being enough, all of these almost feels like a curse. Eventually, we take their living as proof and interpret them as evidence for the core belief, which is I'm never loved, am accepted unconditionally. So when someone leaves, when breakup happens, what is hitting you is not just sadness. Is that familiar feeling of shame, worthlessness, and being rejected all over again? I knew they would leave me. No one will really stay. People with anxious attachment often throw themselves into a relationship really quickly. They give a lot of love, a lot of effort, a lot of emotional investment, not necessarily because they are deeply in love with the person, but because they are trying to earn love back. They want to give so much that the other person has no choice but to love them. At the beginning, they put their partner on a pedestal so high that they can't even see any of their flaws. Like, this person is so different. He's the one. They build up really high expectations, but what they really want from the relationship isn't just love. What they really want is a proof to be loved. But once they get into a relationship, they are constantly on edge. They overanalyze everything like how fast you respond, any silent shift in tone, or maybe your energy just dips a little bit, their radar system would go like, attention, attention. My partner is being dismissive and potentially they don't like me that much anymore. Okay, many things that are completely neutral to other people get interpreted as cold, rejecting, or unloving in their minds. For example, when they send their partner such a funny video, they're gonna be like, why is your reaction so flat? Why did you just reply, haha? That feels so dismissive. When someone start reading every neutral signals as danger, the next thing they usually do is desperately seek certainty or put you down because they need to know whether you still stay, whether you still love them. So you start seeing a lot of these more, but actually very pressure-filled behaviors like constantly checking if you reach out first, intentionally not testing you for a while to see if you chase, panicking when the response takes too long, and send multiple follow-up messages, running little tests of loyalty. Like, if I become less attractive, will you still love me? Sometimes they get jealous on purpose, bring up exes, or create little crisis just to see if you care. They'll tell you it's fine, go do your thing, but deep inside, they're dying for a reassurance. All this behavior look different on the surface, but underneath they're serving the same purpose, which is to make sure you still love me. It's really asked directly, usually expressed in hidden, indirect ways. The problem is this whole pattern slowly starts to feel really heavy for the partner they're gonna be like, no matter what I do, it just seems like never enough for you. If I reply slowly, it's wrong. If my tone is a little bit flat, it's wrong. If I want a bit of space, it's wrong. They can't even be themselves anymore. Over time, they feel tired, suffocated, manipulated, and they naturally pull back and set boundaries. At the moment their partner pulls back, their brains immediately interpret as, see, I knew it. I knew this is gonna happen to me again. You're also going to leave me. Bingo! The script plays out again. Another compulsive repetition, another reinforcement of the core belief. This is exactly their abandonment schema in action. It's not logically describing reality, it's basically hijacking the interpretational system and turning every event into proof that I'm not worth it. The very thing they fear the most, which is being abandoned, ends up being created step by step by the behaviors they do to avoid being abandoned. That's basic anxious attachment. There is also another pattern for some people. The moment they feel hurt or rejected, even though it's just their perception, they immediately withdraw. They go cold, disappear, shut down. You just feel distant. On their surface, they look super independent and unbothered. Like, I'm fine, I don't care. But what's actually happening is they're imagining you will leave anyway, so they leave you first. They prove themselves out of the relationship before you do it to them out of their own imagination. They refuse to share what they really feel. Even though inside they are full of hurt and resentment, they will say it. They pretend to be unaffected and refuse to communicate. We call it a reaction formation, which is also an immature defense mechanism. They are protecting themselves from their most vulnerable part of themselves. Like, it's better to leave you first than being left by you, little jerk. If we zoom out a little bit, it really does feel like a script that was written a long time ago, which keeps playing out automatically without you even noticing. You keep telling yourself, I just keep meeting the wrong people. But very often, is that old wound gets activated and steers your relationship towards the same painful ending that you already know so well. Everything almost feels like a curse. Along the way, you also see a lot of other behaviors like constantly self-sacrificing, bending over backwards for others, avoiding conflict, and suppressing their own emotional needs. We're not going to go into all of that right now. One more important thing, people with this pattern are often attracted to a certain type of partners who are unstable, hard to reach, inconsistent, unpredictable, fluctuating, or critical themselves, always making you guess. Because even though that kind of relationship hurts, it feels familiar. It reminds them of the emotional environment they grew up in. And human beings are wired to gravitate towards what is familiar, even though it's painful. And, and all of this is out of unconsciousness. Whew, yeah, so I'm not sure you've really gotten this yet. Stuff like this does take time to sink in, you know? The very first step to change is awareness. And awareness usually hurts. So don't expect yourself to grow or heal while you're just laughing it off or staying comfy. Be real with yourself, okay? Also, I urge you to please subscribe to my channel, hit the like button. It takes so much time and energy for me to create a video like this. If you want to go deeper, I'm also working on another video where I'll be talking about another layer underneath. Also another episode for helping you to process emotional correctly. I promise you it's not cheesy motivational fluff, but actual methods that are psychologically and clinically tested. So please stay tuned for my upcoming videos and subscribe. Yeah, subscribe. You heard me, right? Okay, healing from these deep subconscious patterns takes a lot of time and patience. As I mentioned, the very first step is awareness. And the second is learning how to articulate what you are actually feeling, setting your own boundaries, and communicating your own needs clearly. A huge part of rebuilding that strong sense of self is simply finding your own voice. For my Chinese viewers, I know exactly how hard it is to express these complex, vulnerable emotions. Sometimes we can't even do it properly in our native language, let alone in a second language like English. But there is something incredibly empowering about mastering a language to the point where you can communicate your deepest thoughts and boundaries with total fluency and confidence. It genuinely builds our self-worth from ground. If you've been watching my videos and you want to do more than just understanding this concept, if you want to actually speak about it and anything else in your life, with that kind of clarity and confidence we just talked about, I want to help you to get there. I'm currently opening up only a few spots for premium English language expression classes. This is not any standard textbook English, it's about real expression. You will be working directly with me, either one-on-one or in a small group, so I can give you my absolute full attention. Because of that format, I can only take on a really limited number of students this month. So if you are ready to finally find your voice and express not just English confidently, but also your suppressed thoughts deep inside, send me a DM and you will get an exclusive offer or even directly reserve a call with me. Alright, enough talking. Take care of yourself. Peace out.